So, starting in your midlife, did you attend school after high school?
Yes. 4
Say
years.
more. Yes.
4 years at University of Missouri pre-med, and then 4 years at medical school.
4-year program.
Then I had
Is that?
3-year residence
Mm-hmm.
in Wichita, Kansas.
And did you went to Wichita pretty much straight after you finished
Yes.
med school? Yes. And did you know at what point did you know that you were going to do sort of family practice or internal medicine?
I think in your medical school interview, they touch upon that. I think I indicated I was interested in family practice, primary care.
Did you have any favorite or influential professors or mentors in college?
I think my favorite fun college experience was University Singers and our director, Dr. Mills.
Was that hard to fit into your schedule?
No, it was during the noon hour.
Smart. Did you work during college or have to have another job or anything?
No.
That's
and
nice.
Of course, my football scholarship, it just paid for tuition and fees and books at first. And then I think maybe by my junior year, they added a little thing they designated as sort of, well, spending money for things like laundry or something. I was living at home. But
that was my other question, I guess, that how much of your college, your first undergrad years, did you live at home?
All
of it.
Including first 2 years of medical school.
Yeah. Huh. So, and you were part of, this is not on the cards, by the way. This is me asking. You were part of a fraternity. When did you join the fraternity?
As a freshman.
Yeah.
I was, I forget the term they used, an early pledge. And so before pledge week. And
did you know?
I kind of helped recruit my pledge brothers a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Did you know before you, like, because you were a Columbia kid and lived around campus, did you kind of already know which fraternity you would want to be part of before you were a freshman?
I don't think so.
No. I don't know if you were aware of them.
Yeah, there were a few Columbia boys in the Beta Pi fraternity. And, I knew them.
Okay, now we're moving on a little bit, although this will kind of overlap. But the next question in this pack is, did you serve in the military?
Yes. 2 years in the Air Force as a physician. I was stationed at Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida, which is near Panama City, Florida.
And so when in the timeline did you do that?
Right after residency, before entering private practice.
So how old were you at that point when you entered the military? I guess. Yeah. You had
22 at the end of college, 26 at the end of medical school, and then 29 at the end of residency.
Yeah.
29 and 30.
Do you recall who were some of your close friends in your early 20s or in medical school?
I didn't live in the fraternity house. I didn't develop close relationships like roommates and things. There were 5 of us who were pre-med, who one was from a earlier class, a younger class. He went in after 3 years of undergraduate.
Mm-hmm.
But then there were 5 of us who were in the same medical class,
Mm-hmm.
which is very unusual.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a little bit of studying together. I
Mm-hmm.
remember I took my dad's slide projector, and they were able to take tissue slides and put them in the slide projector and put them up on a screen, and we'd all look at them and study that together.
Uh-huh. That's helpful.
So those other 4 were my closest. Then I happened to have 2 distant cousins that were, 2 or 3 depending. 2 other were brothers.
Mm-hmm.
That were in the Beta house.
Oh. What were their names?
The oldest was Van, and his middle name was Comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Van Comfort Wilkes. And the next one was Rich Wilkes, or
Mm-hmm.
Richard Wilkes.
Mm-hmm.
And then their close cousin was John Nickel. I guess their mothers were sisters.
Mm-hmm. All right.
The reason they're not, they have to explain their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They're from a branch of my family where my great grandfather had 2 wives, and they're related. They're through the other.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. Yeah.
One died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, well now let's get to these fun questions. What was your dating life like in the 20s? Well, I guess this is sort of the tell us the story about when you first dated your mom, our mom.
Yeah. I'll lead up to it. At the end of my senior year of high school, I started dating a girl, and I dated her for 2 years. So that ended at the end of my sophomore year. Then in my junior year, I dated a girl a few times, and then that relationship ended. And then in my senior year, I dated a girl for several months.
Mm-hmm.
And then we both had graduated, and she had a job in Atlanta, Georgia, so that kind of ended that relationship because I was staying for medical school. So I had met your mother, Annie, when she joined the singers for an expanded group that we sang the Brahms Requiem with the Kansas City Philharmonic in Kansas City, and I think her sister Bethy introduced us just casually. We were in a cafeteria, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Then she had a best friend that you know, Nancy Coyle Lear, who went to the First Christian Church, and she brought Annie there, and then I offered them a ride back to the sorority house, and then decided I'd ask her for a date.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go.
So I had mentioned taking Annie and Nancy Lear back to the Theta house, and then asking Annie for a date. Now that was, I think, in her last semester in college, and she had dated a boy at Westminster, and he was from Tucson, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And she, in her last semester as a senior, interviewed and got a job as a teacher at Tucson. So I started dating her while he was gone, I guess, he might have been a year older and gone out there. And I think he might have entered law school. And we just were in touch by letters and phone calls. But I don't know whether he dropped out of law school, but when she came home at Christmas, I think we decided to get married. Got engaged.
Wow. Okay. So
you
you think
just taught in Tucson for 1 year.
for 1 year, but kind of with the hopes of sort of following him out there, that she thought that would be there's some future there, and then figured out that she'd rather come back home. I see. What attracted you to your spouse back then, even,
Yes,
or whatever?
well, I think men are initially attracted to attractive women. I found her attractive.
Yep.
Um,
She's pretty cute.
yeah, but well, we both had an interest in music, I guess.
Mhm.
She had admirable traits of being, well, I think one I think of as very honest, not covering things up or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I could sense she was kind and fair, and I think we had a lot of the same tastes
Mm-hmm.
and expectations and things.
Mm-hmm.
I guess she thought that eventually that being married to a family physician in a smaller community in central Missouri was okay.
Mm-hmm. Would line up with a life she wanted to live,
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you were would you say you were sort of raised similarly to?
Yes.
Yeah.
And our fathers knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
They were both Alpha Gamma Rhos.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Bethy knew Richard. I think Richard had been to their house.
really? Oh, that's interesting. So more people in your family, more connections there too.
Yeah.
Huh. What was your marriage proposal like? How did you propose?
Well, I didn't do anything fancy or dramatic.
Yeah.
God, surprise. I think I went to the airport to pick her up at Christmas time, and we were driving back from Kansas City to central Missouri,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I asked her then.
Yeah.
And I asked her father for
Uh-huh.
permission.
Were you scared to do that? Dandon was kind of scary sometimes.
No, but I think there, I wasn't earning a living, so we
Yeah.
would be living on her school teacher salary. Another little addition was she had a little car.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
We would live in university housing, which was, I think it was something like $65 a month.
Wow.
Small apartment.
Mm-hmm. But with the sort of promise that you would eventually be an income earning physician, so a time of meager means, but and how, like, were your parents or was your family surprised that you proposed, or were they knew it was coming?
I don't remember the answer to that question.
Tell me a little bit about your wedding. What was that
I think
like?
I should add that.
Oh, okay.
I knew they liked her.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got married after my second year of medical school.
Mm-hmm.
And my pathology professors weren't pleased with my final exam. And I think this happened every year. They would take the people that didn't do well at pathology and hold them back for a year and have them work for the pathology department part-time.
Yeah.
And then
On the job training.
finish redo their second year.
Yeah.
So I was on the cusp or something.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I'd have to do that. And a couple of things pending were we took a test called the National Board Exam, and in the National Board Exam I scored well, and so they decided they'd let me go on. And I think during that month of June or something, I was to read some articles and report on them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do some catch-up work.
Relating to pathology.
Yeah.
And I think Annie worked at the Missouri bookstore that June.
Mm-hmm. What, I don't know if you have anything, but what felt like a difficult part of marriage at that time when you first started out?
Well, one would think financial would be a strain, but
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember there. I think Annie would, one of her little pastimes after school would be to shop for clothes, but she didn't buy them very often.
Yeah.
She kept looking for good bargains, I guess.
Yeah. That also remained a lifelong pattern. Okay, how old were you when you and Mom had your first child? I don't know if that detail is as important. But
69, so I was 26, and she was 1 year younger.
And what was it like when you found out she was pregnant?
Well, I think she must have kind of planned things, contraception and things, and planned to have a baby when we got to Wichita. She saw an obstetrician at the university, Dr. Pat Redden, who recommended an obstetrician in Wichita, Dr. Gordon Coles. And then when we moved back to Mexico, Dr. Redden had moved to Mexico.
Right.
So Dr. Coles delivered Bill and John, Dr. Redden delivered Libby and Sarah.
Do you remember the circumstances or anything about when Bill was born, when your first child was born?
Well, with one of them, I think I was on an obstetrics rotation, so I was kind of looking after women in labor at the same time, I think.
Maybe on call when Mom went in.
The night before she went into labor, we went on. We had pizza, and then we had Baskin and Robbins ice cream. And then she went into labor and had a little nausea.
Yeah. Do you remember if it was a long? As sometimes it is for first babies.
Yeah, but it wasn't too bad. Yeah. I think she started laboring before midnight and delivered like 8 a.m.
Yeah,
as I recall.
Yeah. How did you decide on your children's names? Now you have to go through 4 of them, but you don't have to say all of them.
Well, I think I just kind of like Bill, and then my middle name's David, and I think we both liked David. But not that Annie disliked Bill. She thought that was fine. Then I think she chose John, and we kind of liked the idea of using Colby and her middle name. Nancy Lear's sister was called Libby,
Mm-hmm.
and she liked that name.
Mm-hmm.
But there were other Anne Elizabeths
Mm-hmm.
and Elizabeth Anns in the family, but we chose Anne Elizabeth and then called her Libby, and that I think is confusing. Because some people
Right.
read her name and call her Anne, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody knows her by that. And then we liked Sarah and Catherine.
Mm-hmm. They go well together.
We have kind of a tradition of British
Uh-huh.
monarch names and things.
Did
Charles,
you-
Richard, George, and William and John.
Mm-hmm. Did you and Mom sort of have that Anglophile thing together? Like, did you both feel like you were interested in?
Yeah, her background would be German on the doll side and French on the chocolate side. But there's probably English mixed in there somewhere.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember the
Yeah.
discussion
Let's see. What were some of do you have any memorable family vacations when your kids were young, or any other memorable occasions?
Well, starting in residency, we started going to the YMCA Camp of the Rockies in Estes Park, Colorado. The University of Colorado put on a family practice-like program with a variety of subjects over a week.
Mm-hmm.
We, I think, arrived on a Sunday and left on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But the lectures or seminars or things were from like 8 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon or something, and then we'd have the afternoon free and we'd go into the park and
Mm-hmm.
climb small mountains or
Mm-hmm.
up to lakes and things. On one of those, we ran into Nancy Coyle Lear.
How funny.
Yeah. And then we ran into
I was
her
gonna say,
years later.
Fast forward to 2023, and we ran into her at Monet's house in France. That's funny.
Let's see.
Any other?
Then, so we started doing that in residency. I think we went 1 year in Air Force and maybe 1 year when we came back to Mexico. But then one thing we did for 2 or 3 years was at Montreat,
Mm-hmm.
which is in North Carolina, a Presbyterian, and they would have a family-oriented week of
Mm-hmm.
preachers and Bible studies.
Mm-hmm.
And there were programs for the kids. And it was a beautiful place.
Mm-hmm. I have very fuzzy memories of that.
Then later, when Bill was like a senior in high school and a freshman in college or something, he went to work there for part of the summer.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
And then after I don't know if it was our last trip there, but in 1986, when we extended our trip and went to Jamestown and Williamsburg and Washington, and I think George Washington's home, Mount Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We stopped by we went to the University of Virginia and looked at the campus there that was kind of designed by Jefferson. And then we went to the parking lot of Monticello and considered the ticket prices, which it would be over $100 for a family of 6. So we decided not to go to Monticello. Cost
Sure.
concern.
Yeah.
But it was a great trip.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we had a tape of Chicago
Mm-hmm.
group.
Mm-hmm.
I learned those songs pretty well.
Yep. We were just talking about that last night of family road trips with.
Had
I
all
remember-
6 of us in a Chevrolet
Yeah.
station wagon.
I was the smallest, so I sat between you and Bill in the front a lot of times and was in charge of the tape deck. That's funny. I also have memories of that trip that my glasses kept fogging up in the humidity. Okay, let's see. Do you have any favorite memories or stories when your kids were teenagers? Of being a parent of teenagers.
Yeah. Well, I remember once, I think Bill drove on the grass and it was a little muddy and he got the car he was using got it stuck. And I think he accumulated too many points from speeding a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Had his license taken away for 6 months. So the boys always, when they were younger, played baseball in summer.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time, I don't know whether Bill hit a home run or something, and you were a baby at the game or something like that.
Any other, I don't know, memories of having teenagers? Did you find that you and Mom were sort of stressed out about about your kids as teenagers, or
No,
not too
fortunately,
much?
they were well behaved. I remember your musical productions that we were happy to attend,
Mm-hmm.
and music camps in the summer.
Mm-hmm. How did it feel? Do you remember how you and Mom felt when you sort of became empty nesters? Once I finally went to college.
Well, it was nice having you as the only child for a while. Kind of fun. So then when we were empty nesters, I don't remember a great sadness or emptiness or anything.
Mm-hmm. Mom was working and you were working and let's see. Oh, I feel like we've covered some of these things. Well, what would you say maybe are some of your proudest professional accomplishments, even on a small scale, or things that you're proud of?
Well, I suppose length of service is one factor. I did different things, so some variety. I didn't deliver a lot of babies, but I enjoyed that when everything turned out all right.
Yeah.
And then sadly, there was one case where baby had to be resuscitated and died the next day. And that was about the time because of the cost of malpractice insurance for all family physicians delivering babies, it became prohibitive, so I stopped delivering babies. So I delivered for 10 years and about 30 a year. And so, young families. And I did a well baby clinic at Public Health, which wasn't paid for. I was sort of the medical director for Public Health, or someone they could turn to for questions and things. Did that for quite a few years, maybe 20. Um, became the plant physician for A.P. Green, and that was different. I mean, industrial medicine or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then in 2003, I'd been working part-time in the emergency room, usually sometimes an 18-hour shift from 6 p.m. Friday to noon on Saturday, once or twice a month, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2003, they were needing more help in the emergency room, and I'd been working a little more, I guess. So that was the year your mother had her terminal illness, and
Mm-hmm.
the hours they were suggesting were afternoon, evening, 5 days a week, and I didn't think that would be good for marriage, but
Yeah.
it was sort of tapered. My office practice was doing sort of okay, but not generating as much as I felt I needed to for savings for the future. Being self-employed, I needed to have some kind of retirement. So, and then when I first started, there were no pediatricians in Mexico and 2 obstetricians, and I had a lot of newborns. But then gradually there was 1 pediatrician, then 2 pediatricians, and then 3 pediatricians, and I gradually had fewer newborns.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stopped delivering babies. So it just sort of worked out that I decided to close my office after 29 years, I think. I had a secretary that did everything except what a nurse did.
Mm-hmm.
Did all the book work, billing, correspondence, etc. And she retired in her 60s, and
almost impossible to replace her. Yeah.
I'd had several different nurses over the 29 years. Toward the end, I think they did other things. Some saw that it was sort of a temporary. The year we decided we'd close. So, I started working in the emergency room from 5 to 9 p.m. going back to mid-October through December. Then in January I started working 5 8-hour days. And the office was closed at the end of December.
Yeah.
So that was a mixture of, sorry I had to close the office, but then working in the emergency room, higher income and retirement and insurance and a number of issues that resolved.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people in their careers have to make those kinds of choices, but they're bittersweet.
Yeah. And so then after I stopped working in the emergency room, and I think that was sort of they were wanting to replace me with a less expensive either nurse practitioner or physician's assistant. And so I had an opportunity to help a rural health clinic in Hallsville, and initially that was just 1 day a week. Maybe later it became 2 days a week, and then I took on a little job being the physician for the Audrain County and Callaway County jails,
Oh, right.
which was 2 hours once a week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You kept working in small part-time ways for quite a
Mhm.
while.
My last 4.5 months, no, 3.5, yes, at Hallsville, the nurse quit, and so then I worked, I think it was 4 days a week.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. That was more than, that was a bigger workload than
Yeah.
you maybe wanted at that
Yeah.
point. Okay. So during this sort of midlife time when you were raising kids and things, who were some of your close friends during that time of your life?
Well, I think I can say that Annie's closest friend was Mrs. Jansen.
Mm-hmm.
The Jansens attended our church. They came from a background of Dutch Reform,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure they ever joined the church, but they supported financially.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had Bible study groups, and that the ones I remember the best were the Burkhalters and
Mhm.
Halter and Wiggins
Mhm.
and
The McCumbers.
McCumbers, right?
Yeah. I remember socializing with all of those families too. Yeah.
And Dr. Eckern and his family were very helpful to us,
Mhm.
helping us get started and offering a place to practice and equipment and
Mhm.
personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And but it didn't socialize a lot with the other doctors. I think we had 1 or 2 Christmas socials at our house,
Mhm.
and a few dinners. But
Yeah, I remember those too. The kid version of those
Yeah.
social occasions were sort of running around in basements and things.
the most common, we'd have family gatherings for birthdays and Christmas
Mhm.
and Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I even know this question other than because you worked a lot when I was a kid, but how did you spend your free time outside of work?
Well, from 1984 on, I would go to the YMCA and swim,
Mm-hmm.
and I would jog around the high school track
Mhm.
typically for fitness and
Mhm.
things.
Lots of yard work.
Right? Raking leaves, mowing the
Mhm.
grass. We had season football tickets to
Mhm.
the University of Missouri football.
Mm-hmm.
Sat with the in-laws,
Yep.
Meg and Paul.
Were you a member of any groups or clubs?
For several years initially, I was a member of Kiwanis.
Mm-hmm.
They met during the noon hour and had lunch, and I tried to see a few people from 11 to 12 in the office, and often run over, so I'd get there at 12:30 and the speaker would start.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably 10 years in Kiwanis, and then I decided I'm not
Yeah.
doing this right.
Yeah. I feel like it's not an official group, but you have been a loyal Mizzou alumni, so then there have been some occasions and just sort of, pre-football game brunches and those kinds of things that you're very loyal to and are involved with. But it almost is like a club too. All right, we might have kind of gone through most of these. I don't know. Is there anything else? Any other memories that come up about holidays or kid things of when you were a dad of kids?
I think for Christmas we would rotate our house, the doll's house, and Bethy's house up in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd have a trip in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes take the dolls with us. Let's see, how would that work?
I remember sometimes riding with Dandine and Gammer in their car. We would take 2 cars.
Yeah.
It was sort of who wants to ride in which car? And Dandine always stopped like every 100 miles to use the restroom and get gas. He would never let that tank get even close to empty. Yeah. All right. Well, we can stop there.
I remember one year, first year that Annie had her breast cancer biopsy, mastectomy, reconstruction, chemotherapy. Then that started in October, and then in February the boys were in college. We took 2 girls to it was a medical meeting down in Orlando at Disney.
Do you think, did Mom was that sort of her encouragement of like, let's go to that medical meeting so we can take the girls to Disney, or was that your idea?
I don't remember. I think it was my idea.
Yeah.
And I hope I didn't interrupt her treatment
Oh.
too much. It was a 4-day weekend.
Yeah.
Then she gratefully recovered well, and like the following Christmas, she had everybody at our house for Christmas. And I think maybe Maria, David, and Lisa dropped by sometime.
All right. Well, I think maybe I'll wrap that up there.